You can help support the channel by heading to our merchandise store and picking up some of our great aircraft designs created by our graphic designer. We have everything from fighters to transport aircraft, which you can choose to have printed on t-shirts, mugs, stickers and much more. Head to the description below and click the links and pick up your design today. Thank you and enjoy. So, what was your first aircraft you went onto after your training?
My first aircraft was Saab 32 Lansen at the F-17 wing down in the southern east of Sweden, Ronneby. And from the beginning I was planned to go to the Dragon, but I wanted to go to the Lansen, and I made an exchange with one of the guys who were told to go to the Lansen, but he wanted to go to the Dragon and vice versa. So we made an exchange there.
So yeah, let's talk about your first thoughts of the Lansen. What did you feel?
If you're coming from Saab 105, which are quite low, it's like sitting with your bottom in the air surface, like so to speak. And if you go to Lansen, it's huge, it's high, it's a long nose in front of you, and it's not side by side, it's a tandem, and also another generation. Saab 105 is a generation from 60s to 70s, you can say. Lansen is the early 50s. That affects the instruments, the sticks and everything, how to handle it. So it's like going backwards in that respect, but also it was very fascinating to that huge aircraft. And we flew 3 to 4 hours in duel, then we went on solo.
So let's talk about the actual aircraft. What was it actually designed for the Swedish Air Force?
Lansen was designed as a ground attack fighter. It was made for wearing bombs, rockets or missiles to hit especially boats, invasion boats coming from the east, and also forces on the ground and all supplies. So we have different types of operation profiles. 4 aircraft, 8 aircraft on bombs, heavy bombs up to 600 kilos, 500 kilos, and rockets, and also those missiles. And also day and night. So we flew those targets, made those missions with weapons in, let's say, all type of weather, day and night. And the aircraft was a 2-seater. We had a navigator in the back seat.
Right.
Who with a radar.
It looks very small from this.
Yeah, it's a little bit tiny, but it's worked quite well. So as a pilot, you were on the steering machine, so to speak. The navigator made all the work.
So let's talk about some of your ground training. What was it like coming from those trainer aircraft to frontline aircraft?
When you started to fly the Lansen, you went straight onto a sharp squadron, which were converted to let's say, learn new students to fly for a couple of months before you join the real training for combat. And so you went into a society which are quite another by what you're using at the Flying Academy, where you were a student and a lot of teachers. Here you became a very nice part of a gang, and everybody was keen to learn to fly, and the military stuff by saluting and such thing is not that very important there. For it's important is what you do and how you're working with other together. The social life is important, but also the demands. You have to prove quite early that you can manage those aircrafts. You don't have too many hours to try. If you're failing, you're out.
Yeah.
So it's, you had that pressure on you, especially during the time of the flight school. When I came to the flight school in 1967, I believe we were about 83 students, and we were 21 who took exam later on. So it was a big dropout.
Yeah. So can you remember your first flight in the Lansen?
My first flight in Lansen was with my instructor, a guy called Stig Benjaminsson, very nice guy. And I remember to taxiing out, you were feeling like sitting on a big horse or something, and the taxiway seems very tiny, very small. and you took off with a reheater. The reheater in Lansen is not that very effective, but at least you could feel it. And then come up in the air with other speeds than what you're used to, and you're also flying with hydraulic rudders and sticks, and this is not what you're used to from the flying school, and all those instruments you have to look everywhere, and so on. And also the landing, which is quite different. It's not like today, so you just take the gear out and touch down. Here you have the maneuvering, the stabilizer, the flaps, the air brakes in different position. It takes about 1 minute from you decide to make yourself clear for landing to everything is out and working and such.
You don't think that, like, compared to modern day aircraft?
Yes.
Gears down now, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So it's a very lot of things to do. But after you made the first landing, you found out, okay, that was okay.
Yeah.
Okay, the aircraft was alive and I was alive, and the instructor was out of the hospital in a couple of days, so, well, just joking. But then we had another flight with the instructor for only touch and go, and some flights for maneuvering through to stall and low speed and such things. Then we went solo. The first solo was an navigation trip around the southern part of Sweden on 3,000 feet or something.
That must have been pretty special.
Yeah, you felt, I was only, just had been 20 years old, so it was amazing.
Quite young, yeah. So can you talk us through some of your actual training on the aircraft for the squadron you were on? What kind of role were you as a pilot?
Well, after you have done your combat training and became efficient enough to be in the squadron as a full pilot, you always are a wingman. We operate in 4 or 8. That means number 1 was a squadron leader, number 3 was a group chief, number 5 was another group chief, and number 7 was another group. Number 2, 4, 6, 8 was wingman.
Right.
And as the first 2 years, you always stick to your wingman. You put your teeth in his wingtip and don't leave him, so to speak. So every time you fly without a wingman in front of you, you feel a little bit afraid. Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? So after 1 or 2 years, you expand to be a chief for the pair, and you come in new students, which you will have behind you. So you're accelerating up in the hierarchy, so to speak. But it takes quite many years before you are allowed to be a group chief. Group chief, I mean chief of 4 aircrafts.
Yeah,
at your own.
Big responsibility, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk about its handling characteristics. What was the strengths and weakness of the aircraft?
The strength was it could take the load that was expected. It could endurance on 1.5 hours or something, and it was the strength was that you had a navigator at the time. The weakness was it was not supersonic. You could fly supersonic, and we did it a couple of times during the initial training. That means you climbed up to 38,000 feet. You make a half rule, split S, put you down, straight down, fully afterburner, straight down, and after a while you can feel the stick starting to live its own life. You're trying to keep it still, and after a while you saw in the back mirror a little notch there which contained, now you are supersonic. You can see 1.01. Then you take brakes out, take off the engine, and you pull as much as you can, and you level out on 5,000-6,000 meters, 15,000 feet or something.
It's strange because you always think an aircraft with an afterburner will be able to go supersonic in a straight line, but I think this is the first aircraft I know of.
I mean, if you go to another version of Lansen, which I flew much later, the fighter version of Lansen had the same engine as the Dragon. And they could go a little bit faster, even though the engine was much stronger. But it's not the engine, it's the aerodynamic which puts a limit for it. So every time you come above 0.92, it started to put the nose down, and it was a little bit riding a horse that wants to go back to the stable all the time. So as soon as it got down to below 0.92, it was quite easy to fly. But with the attack Lansen, you very seldom exceeded 1,000 km per hour. That means 0.9. Normally with load, we had a speed of 0.78, 0.8 with reheater.
And what kind of weapons would it carry at this point when you were flying it?
We had bombs from 120 kilograms up to 500 and 600 and 250 kilograms. We have rockets, different powered with different type of things, from 13.5 centimeters up to 18 centimeters. We have guns, 4 guns, 20 millimeters, and we have Robot 04, a Swedish-built sea robot, which were launched about 30 km away on low level. Then it flows itself to the target. It was a very, very strong one. And that one specific Robot 04 was also developed for the Viggen later on in a new version.
So would you say it was a capable aircraft at this time to do its role
Yeah,
intended?
it did its work. It did its work, yeah.
Yeah. And let's talk a bit about the cockpit. Was it cramped in there? Because from looking, as we said, it looks pretty tight in there. Was it?
Well, it's quite roomy. It's you can have flowers and water them on the side. It's very big, like this, but it's not very. It's not narrow, so to speak. If you go to a Dragon, it's much more narrow.
Oh yes.
The back seat a little bit more narrow, but otherwise you're quite comfortable in it.
Yeah.
And you have two ejection seats, of course.
Oh, you needed them probably, yes.
Yeah, I used it once.
Yes, we're going to get onto that. So, but you also did some display work. Can you tell us about this?
About my display flying?
Yeah, and this.
Well, I started to fly displays 1981 with prop machines and also little bit with the Viggen, but mostly with Lansen was from 2001, and that was a fighter version. And the fighter version was at that time out of service. It's only operated as a vintage aircraft.
Okay.
So I flew from 2001 to 2013. About 8 to 10 shows per year, and as I said before, it's quite different between the attack Lansen and the fighter Lansen because the engine is so much powered.
Yeah.
It's very nice aircraft to fly. It's easy to fly, and it's everybody say every aircraft is a pilot's aircraft, and well, it's easy to fly, even if it had its disadvantage in some kind. So display flying has been part of my life in the Air Force in 1981 up to 2013 as a military pilot.
So I was gonna ask you a memorable story, so we're gonna talk about your ejection. Let's talk about that story, and can you share it with our viewers?
Well, it was a Monday. We should go out with 4 Lansen on a mission from Ronneby out in the Baltic Sea, about a couple of minutes, 30 minutes or something, then back in for flying some rockets on our target. After takeoff, in let's say about 5-6 minutes, we were on low level, about 100 feet or something. I just felt that my engine stopped, and I was hanging in my straps. And my pulse went from 80, 90 up to 290, I don't know. My first reaction was to climb, to gain height, because you need height if you have to jet from this aircraft. And I started to make some proceeding to relight the engine, which failed. And when I come on top of my track, it was about 700 meters, the speed was down to 400 kilometers per hour, which it's initially been 600 kilometers per hour. And 400 km is a recommended speed to eject, and nothing happened with the engine. And now I started to descend down to the sea again. I decided to, okay, that's it. So I decided to eject, and I told that on the radio. And one of the guys was just 100 meters to the right of me. When I decided to eject, I took my left hand to the handle for ejecting the canopy, which you had to do in this aircraft. And I turned the handle down, and nothing happened. I was staring down at my hand when I was looking at the little lamp which are used for lighting up your map during night. And this one is situated very close, so I dropped that lamp, took the right handle, ejected the canopy, and then I ejected out of the aircraft. And a big bang, and I saw myself, my feet up against the blue, and a lot of paper around me, which came from my knee blocks. And then some kind of a little shock. I was hanging the aircraft in the parachute. And I saw my aircraft nice and gently diving into the sea. And then I landed in the sea, and I was picked up after about 30 minutes by a helicopter.